Everyone has to make sacrifices. Vanessa sat across the glass conference table, her manicured nails tapping rhythmically against her tablet. Your compensation package is outdated. We're cutting base salaries by 40% and restructuring commissions, she announced. My name is Jeffrey Maddox. I'm 52, with salt and pepper hair that began graying in my 30s. For the past 15 years, I served as Senior Vice President of Sales at Trielic Woodworks, a commercial millwork supplier headquartered in Austin, Texas. The business card said SVP, but in reality, I was the one who kept everything running. I personally handled our top 10 accounts. These weren't just clients to me. They were relationships forged over thousands of calls, countless dinners, and a decade and a half of anticipating problems before they arose. I knew the names of their children, their golf handicaps, even their favorite vacation spots. They would call me first, often before reaching out to their own teams, whenever something needed fixing. Vanessa slid a document across the table. The new structure is designed to incentivize growth. Everyone's package is being adjusted to match industry standards. I glanced down. 40% cut to base salary. Commission restructured in a way that would make it impossible to earn what I currently did, even with increased sales. Benefits trimmed back, too. Vanessa Claymore had arrived 3 months earlier, right after the acquisition. She wore designer suits and carried a Harvard MBA. The first week she spent buried in spreadsheets and behind closed doors with executives from the parent company. I knew exactly what she saw when she looked at me. Expensive, old-fashioned, a relic who should be thankful just to keep his job. Is there a timeline for this transition? I asked evenly. Effective immediately, she said, smiling tightly. We need everyone on board with the new direction. I closed the folder, stood, and extended my hand. Thank you for your clarity. Her smile wavered. She had expected resistance, negotiation, maybe even desperation. Instead, I offered a handshake and a calm exit. Later that afternoon, I caught her watching me from her office window as I packed a few personal items into a cardboard box. Nothing dramatic, just a photo of my daughters at their college graduations, a pen set from a longtime client, an old sales award. On my way out, I nodded to Thomas, our CFO. He'd been with me since day one. His eyes said what words couldn't. This wasn't just a cost-cutting measure. They were cutting me out. In the parking lot, I didn't slam the doors or peel out. I simply placed the box in the trunk, adjusted my mirror, and drove away, taking with me 15 years of client relationships that Vanessa had just handed over to the competition. I built that sales department brick by brick. When I joined Trielic back in 2010, we were a regional player doing $8 million a year. By last year, my team had grown that to $73 million, with my personal accounts making up over $12 million. My father owned a small cabinet shop in Dallas and taught me everything about wood, joinery, and finishes before I turned 16. After college, I drifted through a few sales jobs until I found Trielic. Something just clicked there. I understood the products because I'd grown up around them. I could talk technical specs with architects and pricing with purchasing managers in the same meeting. Oliver Waywright, the owner, recognized what I brought to the table. You're not just selling products, he told me. You're selling trust. He gave me the freedom to build my department the way I wanted. I hired young, hungry reps and taught them exactly what Oliver taught me. Relationships matter far more than transactions. When Oliver sold the company to Driftmore Labs last year, I was uneasy but not panicked. Acquisitions were part of business. I'd weathered changes like this before. The trouble started when they began replacing the executive team, a new CEO from outside the industry, a new marketing director with grand ideas about rebranding digitally. Then Vanessa arrived with her sleek presentations on operational efficiency and resource optimization. First came small changes. Travel budgets tightened. Customer entertainment expenses needed multiple approvals. My weekly executive meetings became monthly, then just as needed. "We're just streamlining," Vanessa explained during one early meeting. "Nothing personal." But it felt personal when she started scheduling calls with my key accounts without me. When she challenged the discounts I'd negotiated years ago, discounts that kept clients loyal through multiple price hikes. When she insisted my team needed fresh perspectives and brought in two of her former colleagues as new regional managers. Thomas tried to warn me during our quarterly budget review. "They're scrutinizing the sales compensation structure," he whispered, glancing nervously toward the door, "especially the legacy deals." I was the last legacy deal standing. A week before that final meeting, I spotted Vanessa having lunch with Gabriella, my newest hire. They were close together, speaking quietly. When they noticed me entering, Gabriella looked down at her plate while Vanessa waved casually, as if bumping into me was a happy surprise. Later, Gabriella avoided eye contact when I asked about the lunch. "Just getting to know the team," she mumbled. That's when I knew what was coming. Not the exact details, but the direction. That evening, after Vanessa's announcement, I sat in my home office staring at sales reports spanning the last decade. 15 years of steady growth. 15 years of building Treelock Woodworks into an industry leader. 15 years of loyalty repaid with a dismissive, "Your package is outdated." My phone buzzed. A text from Frank Donnelly, purchasing director at Weston Commercial, our largest client. "Heard rumors about big changes at Treelock. Everything okay? Call me." Frank and I had worked together for 12 years. I'd helped him through 2 restructures, a divorce, and his son's college applications. We were more than business partners. We'd become friends. I poured 2 fingers of bourbon and dialed him. "Jeffrey," he answered immediately. "What the hell is going on over there? I got a call from some woman saying she's taking over our account." "That would be Vanessa Claymore, our new sales director," I replied, keeping my voice neutral. "She's been talking about reviewing our pricing and implementing a new vendor management system." Frank's voice tightened. "We have a contract. We have processes that work. I don't need some outsider telling me how to handle my suppliers." I took a slow sip, letting silence hang between us. "Jeffrey," Frank lowered his voice, "are you staying? Because if you're not, we need to talk." In that moment, everything became clear. My value wasn't in my title or even my sales figures. It was in 15 years of trust, 15 years of preventing problems instead of causing them, 15 years of relationships that could walk out the door with me. "I'm weighing my options," I said carefully. "Consider this. If you land somewhere else, just make sure to give me a call before I have to deal with Harvard Barbie again." After I hung up, I opened my laptop and started drafting an email to Daniel Harrison at Pinnacle Supply Group. We'd crossed paths at an industry conference the previous year, and he'd mentioned their plans to expand their commercial millwork division. I didn't hit send right away, just saved the draft for now. The very next morning, I got calls from 3 more clients, each echoing similar worries. Vanessa was already reaching out, already shaking things up, interfering with relationships she clearly didn't understand. That day, I drove to the office one final time to clear out my desk. While packing, Thomas quietly slipped a folded sheet of paper into my hand. "Here are your client retention stats," he murmured, "and their average yearly spend. Thought you might want to keep this." I gave a subtle nod, knowing exactly what he was really telling me. Even if Vanessa didn't see my worth, Thomas did. Later that afternoon, I finished writing my resignation letter, sent the email to Daniel at Pinnacle, and called my lawyer to go over my non-compete agreement. As I suspected, the restriction covered products but not clients. I wasn't allowed to sell competing millwork for 6 months, but nothing stopped me from maintaining the relationships I'd built. The anger had faded. In its place was clarity and focus. There's a unique kind of power in being underestimated. When they dismiss you as outdated, it means they never see you coming until it's too late. I took 2 weeks to consider my options before accepting Daniel's offer at Pinnacle Supply Group. The position was exactly what I needed: Senior Vice President of Business Development, with full freedom to build a division from the ground up. "We want your expertise, Jeffrey," Daniel told me during our final meeting. "You know what works in this field. No need to reinvent the wheel." The following day, I called Vanessa to discuss my resignation and how to transition my accounts. I offered to stay 2 more weeks to ensure everything went smoothly. "That won't be necessary," she replied coldly. "We've already contacted your clients. Gabriella will take care of the transition." "These relationships are complicated," I said. "Each account has its own nuances that take time to manage properly." "We have all your notes in the CRM," she interrupted sharply. "And honestly, your methods were a bit old-fashioned. We're moving towards a more data-driven approach." I could have argued, but what was the point? Her opinion of me was set the moment she arrived. "I'll have HR process your exit paperwork," she finished. "Return all company property by week's end." 3 days later, I met Frank from Western Commercial for lunch. He hadn't answered Gabriella's calls, and Vanessa had escalated the situation to his boss. "Your replacement sent me a client satisfaction survey, 48 questions long," Frank said, shaking his head, then followed up with a presentation on their new customer success metrics. "I don't need metrics. I need someone who actually understands our business." I nodded, keeping my remarks neutral. No sense in trashing Trelock. "So, where are you headed?" Frank asked directly. "I'm joining Pinnacle as SVP of Business Development." Frank raised an eyebrow. "Interesting. They've been chasing our business for years." I took a sip of water. "I start in 2 weeks." "Well," Frank said, sliding his card across the table, "call me when you're settled." The next day, I received a certified letter from Trelock's legal department. It reiterated my non-compete obligations and warned against improper solicitation of Trelock clients. The letter even named every major account I'd managed. That afternoon, my phone rang. Harold Lang, CEO of Northwell Construction, another top 10 client, was on the line. "Jeffrey, what the hell's going on?" he demanded. "This new woman is trying to change our payment terms. Claims our account structure needs optimization. We've been on Net 45 for 10 years. "I'm no longer with Trelock," I replied cautiously. "Yeah, I figured after she called," he said. "Where are you now?" I told him the basics about Pinnacle. Before I could finish, he interrupted. "They carry the same product lines, right?" "Similar," I confirmed. "Good. Call me Monday. We need to talk options." By week's end, 5 more clients had called with similar concerns. Every conversation followed the same script: complaints about Vanessa's tactics, questions about my new role, requests to reconnect once I'd started. I hadn't reached out to a single client. They came to me. On my last official day, Vanessa called unexpectedly. "I understand you've been in contact with Trelock clients," she said, voice tight. "I've spoken to a few." "Yes. Many of them are personal friends after 15 years. We consider those proprietary business relationships. Any attempt to redirect that business would breach your separation agreement." "I understand my obligations," I replied calmly. "Good," she snapped, "because the last thing you want is a legal fight with Driftmore's lawyers." After hanging up, I forwarded the call recording to my lawyer, the same one who'd confirmed my non-compete only barred selling millwork for 6 months. Nothing stopped me from selling other construction supplies to those clients through Pinnacle. Nothing stopped those clients from choosing to follow me. Vanessa had just revealed her first true fear. She was starting to grasp the consequences of pushing me out. My first day at Pinnacle began with an eye-opener. "We've been trying to crack Trelock's market for years," Daniel admitted during our morning meeting. "Your predecessor spent 18 months courting Western Commercial, never getting past their purchasing department. Frank Donnelly doesn't trust easily." I nodded. Daniel leaned in. "What puzzles me is this. Trilic's client retention rate is nearly 95%, while the industry average is around 72%. What's their secret? I almost laughed. The answer was sitting right in front of him. It's no secret, I said. It's relationships. When Oliver ran things, he knew contracts kept clients on paper, but relationships kept them loyal, even when competitors undercut prices. Daniel nodded slowly. New management doesn't get that. They see relationships as inefficient. Vanessa prefers automated systems over phone calls. Before I could add more, my assistant interrupted with an urgent message. Thomas, Trilic's CFO, wanted to meet. We set up a meeting at a quiet downtown bar after work. Thomas looked anxious, constantly glancing over his shoulder as I approached. I shouldn't be here, he whispered. But here you are, I replied, ordering us drinks. He slid a folder across the table. The board meeting was yesterday. Thought you should see this. Inside was Vanessa's quarterly strategy presentation. The first pages covered routine projections and marketing plans. Then I saw something that caught my attention. Client transition strategy, Maddox accounts. The plan outlined how my former clients would be transitioned to Gabriella and 2 newly appointed account managers. It detailed key talking points to preempt objections regarding my departure and included a timeline for rebuilding client relationships. But what really grabbed my attention was the financial projection. Contrary to my long-held estimate of $12 million in annual revenue from my accounts, the report showed $17.3 million, nearly 24% of Trilic's entire revenue. They never told you what your book was truly worth, Thomas said softly. Oliver knew, of course, but after the acquisition he had shrugged it off. Why show me this now? I asked. Thomas took a long sip from his glass. Because what they're doing isn't right. Vanessa's already missing her forecasts. She's told the board it's just temporary disruption during the transition, but the numbers don't lie. He tapped the folder in front of him. She's already lost Northwell, hasn't she? I didn't confirm or deny. Client retention wasn't my responsibility anymore. It's only going to get worse, Thomas continued. Next month, she's rolling out price increases across all legacy accounts. The board signed off on it after her analysis showed we've been underpricing the market for years. Suddenly it became clear. Vanessa hadn't just wanted me out to save on my salary. She saw my client relationships as obstacles to her aggressive revenue goals. With me gone, she could hike prices, alter terms, and implement new systems designed to squeeze more short-term profit from the very connections I'd spent years cultivating. There's something else, Thomas added, lowering his voice. They've been auditing your expense reports for the past 3 years, searching for irregularities. They won't find any, I said. I know, he said, but they're crafting a narrative. If clients start leaving, they'll need someone to blame. As he left, Thomas hesitated. I'm updating my resume, he said quietly. Just thought you should know. Driving home, I felt an unexpected calm. I wasn't just discovering what Vanessa thought of me. I was realizing what Trilic had really thought all along. My worth was obvious in the numbers, yet nowhere reflected in my pay. They'd happily profited from my relationships while quietly planning to squeeze more money out of them once I was gone. The truth wasn't simply that Vanessa had underestimated me. It was that Trilic had undervalued me for years. 2 months into my new role at Pinnacle, I'd found my stride. My office overlooked downtown Austin, and my small but growing team included 2 young sales reps I'd personally selected. I hadn't reached out directly to any of my old clients. No need. They came to me. Harold from Northwell was first. He called the day after Trilic announced their price hike, a 14% increase with 0 warning. He was furious. Can Pinnacle match our original pricing? We could, and we did, while adding value-added services Trilic had never offered. Next came Westerly Developers, then several regional builders, and Austin Modern Construction. Each voiced the same complaints: surprise price jumps, inflexible new policies, cold, impersonal service. By the end of my second month, 4 of my former top 10 accounts had shifted their business to Pinnacle. I made sure every transition was flawless. My team worked weekends to guarantee first orders went perfectly. I personally visited job sites to oversee deliveries. Word spread fast. Following Jeffrey Maddox to Pinnacle meant better service and better prices. Then my phone rang. "Vanessa, we need to talk," she said, her usual confidence replaced with barely disguised panic. I agreed to meet at a coffee shop near Pinnacle's office. Vanessa arrived early, already nursing a latte when I walked in. "This has to stop," she said immediately. "What exactly?" "You know what? Poaching our clients." I stirred my coffee. "I haven't solicited a single Trialock client." She snapped, then caught herself. "4 major accounts have left us in 8 weeks. All mentioned you by name. Clients make their own choices." Vanessa leaned forward. "We can make this easy or hard, Jeffrey. Easy means you back off and we don't pursue legal action for breach of contract." "There's no breach," I said evenly. "My non-compete stops me from selling millwork for 6 months. Pinnacle's construction supply division doesn't compete with Trialock's millwork." Her eyes narrowed. "You're exploiting a loophole." "I'm following the exact terms your legal team drafted." I took a sip of coffee. Maybe they should have been more careful. "The board's asking questions," she admitted, voice dropping, "about client retention, about revenue projections. That sounds like an internal Trialock matter." She switched tactics. "What do you want? Consulting fees? A finder's fee for leaving certain accounts alone?" I almost laughed. She still didn't get it. "I'm not interested in deals," I said, standing. "I'm interested in doing my job well. The rest takes care of itself." The next day, Frank from Western Commercial called. Their 3-year contract with Trialock was up for renewal. "We're putting it out to bid," he said. "Vanessa's been calling me daily, offering to beat any competitor's price by 5%. "That's a good offer," I said. "Is it? Because I'm looking for more than price, Jeffrey. I need someone who understands our business. Someone who answers the phone at 7 p.m. when a project's in trouble." 2 weeks later, Weston awarded Pinnacle a 2-year supply contract worth $4.2 million annually, a huge win that made industry headlines. That same day, I got an email from Thomas containing a forwarded internal memo. Vanessa was being reassigned to strategic development while they searched for a new sales director. I didn't reply or reach out to anyone at Trialock. I just forwarded Weston's signed contract to Daniel with a note. First of many. Planning to hit $20 million in new business by year end. The wheels were turning, and Vanessa was only beginning to grasp the true cost of her miscalculation. 6 months after joining Pinnacle, I stood in the conference room surrounded by my team. On the wall screen, our quarterly report showed $13.7 million in new business, with projections to reach $22 million by year's end. 8 of my former top 10 Trialock accounts had followed me. Daniel walked in holding a bottle of champagne. "The board just approved your division expansion plan," he announced. "Additional staff, bigger marketing budget, everything you asked for." As glasses were passed around, my phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. "Trialock Q3 earnings call in 30 minutes. Might want to listen in." I stepped away to dial into the call. Trialock's new CEO, Raymond Peters, sounded strained as he addressed investors. "We anticipated some disruption after our strategic restructuring," Raymond began cautiously, "but sales have fallen short of our projections. We've also seen unexpected client losses in our commercial division." An analyst cut in. "Can you quantify that attrition? There are estimates floating around that Trialock has lost close to 20% of its annual revenue over the last 2 quarters." Raymond deflected smoothly. Those figures are speculative. We're actively rolling out an aggressive client retention plan. Another analyst pressed further. Is it true that your largest account, Weston Commercial, recently signed with Pinnacle Supply Group? The silence on the line stretched heavily before Raymond replied, We're in ongoing discussions with all our key clients. As the call went on, my inbox pinged. It was an email from Gabriella, my former hire who had sided with Vanessa. The subject line read simply, Any openings at Pinnacle? I slipped back into the celebration, declining the champagne Daniel offered. He caught the look on my face. Everything all right? Just got some confirmation, I replied quietly. Later that afternoon, an industry newsletter broke the story. Trialic Woodwork struggles after exodus of key accounts. The article mentioned my move to Pinnacle and the wave of clients following. It quoted an anonymous Trialoc employee saying the company fundamentally misunderstood the value of its senior sales leadership. I never needed to say a word. The numbers were loud enough. Exactly 1 year after Vanessa told me my package was outdated, I sat in my expanded office at Pinnacle reviewing our annual results. My division had generated $26.3 million in revenue, exceeding even my own ambitious targets. My team had grown from 2 sales reps to 11, supported by a dedicated client services staff. We'd moved into a larger floor, and Daniel had hinted at a possible board seat opening soon. On my desk sat a photo from our division's holiday dinner. Relaxed faces, genuine smiles, a team that understood something I'd always known. Business is built on trust. My assistant buzzed over. There's a Vanessa Claymore here to see you. No appointment. I paused, then nodded. Send her in. Vanessa looked different, less polished, more worn. Her designer suit was gone, replaced by something off the rack. Thank you for seeing me, she said, standing even as I gestured toward a chair. What can I do for you? I'm with Hamilton Group now, she explained. Business consulting. I was hoping to get your perspective on Pinnacle's client retention approach for a case study I'm working on. I almost laughed at the irony. I think you already know my approach. She nodded stiffly. I made a miscalculation at Trilock. You did. The market is talking about how you brought down a company without saying a word. That's quite a reputation, she added. I said nothing. Vanessa hadn't come for a case study. She'd come seeking absolution or reconciliation. I wasn't offering either. After an awkward pause, she placed her business card on my desk. If you ever want to discuss industry trends. I appreciate the offer, I said, standing, but my schedule's full these days. After she left, I glanced at the card, then dropped it into the shredder. That evening, I drove to my daughter's new house for dinner. She'd just been promoted to senior architect at her firm. How's work, Dad? She asked as we sat out on her patio. Good, I answered simply. Building something that lasts. And I was. Not with wood this time, but with the same principles that had guided my entire career. Do the work. Keep your promises. Value relationships over transactions. In the end, Vanessa had given me an unexpected gift. She'd forced me to prove, to myself and everyone watching, exactly what 15 years of trust was truly worth.